Welcome back, friends, to The Pulse. I am David Harris Jr., and it's all hands on deck with the U.S. attempting to reach a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine, pushing a plan to end the war and hoping to strike terms that both sides believe can lead to a sustained ceasefire. Secretary of State Marco Rubio led a U.S. delegation in Geneva over the weekend, joined by Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, all hashing out details with their Ukrainian counterparts. The talks in Switzerland are being described as positive, but says more negotiations will take place in the coming days, including a potential visit to Washington, D.C. by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Rubio says substantial progress has been made, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
It is probably the most productive day we have had on this issue, maybe in the entirety of our engagement, but certainly in a very long time. But work remains, and because this continues to be a working process, I don't want to declare victory or finality here. There's still some work to be done, but we are much further ahead today at this time than we were when we began this morning and where we were a week ago for certain.
Well, with Secretary Rubio calling this the most productive day, will we see an end to this almost 4-year war? Joining me now is foreign policy expert Harley Lippman. Harley, let's start off with the United States issuing a Thanksgiving Day deadline for Kiev to agree to President Trump's 28-point peace plan to bring an end to this Russia-Ukraine war. And after Sunday's meeting, both the U.S. and Ukraine released a joint statement reading, Ukrainian representatives stated, based on revisions and clarifications presented today, they believe the current draft reflects their national interests and provides credible and enforceable mechanisms to safeguard Ukraine's security. What are your thoughts? Do you think that they will move forward with this, or do you think that Zelensky will stall a little bit more?
I think they'll move forward if they're addressing the key concerns of Ukraine, which are reasonable. For Ukraine to cut its armed forces significantly is problematic. They're very worried about Russia attacking again, and they want to be able to defend their people. It's pretty understandable. Also, for Ukraine to give up territory that Russia has not conquered and taken from Ukraine really goes against what most Ukrainians believe is fair and what most people believe is fair. You can't reward a country for aggression and war, for stealing territory that does not belong to them. These are the main obstacles. I'd also add that the fact that Ukraine can never join NATO, that's tough for Ukraine to swallow, because NATO is an entirely defensive organization, not offensive in any way. It's not a threat to Russia. It's only a threat to Russia if Russia wants to conquer its former territories that it once ruled, but doesn't anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think they have anywhere else to go either. President Trump was asked if this would be the U.S.'s final offer to Ukraine, and here's what he had to say.
Is this your final offer to Ukraine?
No, I would like to get the peace. It should have happened a long time ago. The Ukraine war with Russia should have never happened. If I were president, it never would have happened. We're trying to get it ended. One way or the other, we have to get it ended.
Well, the finalized plan is believed to force Ukraine to give up territory it currently controls, something that Vladimir Zelensky has been very adamantly against. Do you think that there is a way around this, and would Trump be prepared to present an offer that allows Ukraine to keep this territory?
I think that's in the works. We heard in the presentation on Newsmax now that Marco Rubio said they made a lot of progress. Reading between the lines, it's got to be on those issues, because these were the stumbling blocks. So he seemed pretty optimistic, which makes me also very encouraged that they're making progress on these issues, and they may come up with a plan that could work. It would be a miracle. This war has gone on for 4 years. Trump is doing a great job in trying to bring the parties together. But most importantly, our number one adversary is China. And if it's perceived that America threw Ukraine under the bus, this is the kind of thing that could encourage China to take Taiwan, and that could start a world war. The same way in Europe, I don't know of any dictator that successfully conquered their neighbor and just stopped. I think if we want to preserve peace, we have to keep things as they are and not reward Russia for conquering part of Ukraine. Because if they get away with it, they're going to continue doing it. And before you know it, they're going to target a NATO nation, where Article 5 says an attack on one NATO nation is an attack on all NATO nations. And that's World War III. So we want to preserve peace above all.
Yeah, absolutely want to preserve peace. Hopefully that is what they'll do, and we're ready to see it happen, too, after almost 4 years. Let's switch gears now, pivoting to the Middle East. Israel took out Hezbollah's military chief in its first attack on Beirut in months. How much of a threat is Hezbollah still at this point?
A significant threat. Like Iran, they were weakened a great deal, but they're trying to come back. So Israel is just trying to make sure that they don't have to go through this all over again with a Hezbollah that's re-energized, resupplied, rearmed, and learn lessons. Will not be on pagers or walkie-talkies again, presumably. And Israel may not come up with another pulling a rabbit out of their hat where they did by coming up with this brilliant intelligence plan to defeat Hezbollah, as they did with the beepers that blew up in their pockets and the walkie-talkies that blew up as they went to speak on them, which was largely credited with defeating Hezbollah. So Israel's sitting there, and ever since October 7th, Israel's made a dramatic change in its foreign policy, which is they're not going to wait to mow the lawn. What they're going to do is they're going to proactively go after their enemies before they're more armed to cause damage to Israel. They're being proactive because they were sleeping when Hamas attacked Israel, and that war was just horrendous all the way around, and they want to make sure they're not going to be caught off guard again.
Yeah, and they obviously have every right to make sure that they're never caught off guard like that again. Harley, I want to talk about Venezuela now. The Trump administration is ramping up pressure on President Nicolás Maduro. Starting today, the Venezuelan cartels de las Sols has been designated as a foreign terrorist organization, with Maduro identified as the group's leader. And now the U.S. is reportedly poised to launch a new phase of Venezuela operations, and covert operations expected to be the first step. Harley, is Maduro's regime on the verge of collapse?
I hope so. I really hope the Trump administration follows through. But it's very hard to overthrow an existing ruler, especially when it appears the military is behind him. That's what we're hearing. It's hard to know. But we have to keep in mind is that Maduro is a frontman for Cuba, China, Iran, North Korea. Those countries who are enemies of the United States and would like to see the United States weakened, if not destroyed, are in our hemisphere in South America, spreading their propaganda, undermining the U.S., trying to do everything to hurt America and its allies in this hemisphere. And I think it's great that Trump is trying to rescue the Venezuelan people as well, who suffer under Maduro. There's widespread poverty in Venezuela. All these, so-called leftist regimes that take power, they bring more misery to their people than even their predecessor. It's so sad. People tend not to know the facts. But Venezuelan people are really suffering, and President Trump can end up being a liberator of those people and reduce a major threat to the United States coming from South America.
Well, and I hope that that's exactly what does take place. It's just crazy to think of all the different fronts that President Trump is battling, negotiating, and trying to bring about peace and kind of righting a lot of wrongs. Again, I'm thankful that it's not Kamala Harris in the Oval Office trying to manage all this. Harley Lippman, God bless you, brother. Thank you for joining the Pulse tonight.
Thank you.